By now, many of you may have heard of Capitol Hill's Autonomous Zone in Seattle, or otherwise known as CHAZ. I've got pulled up a map here of what CHAZ is. So, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone is a 6 or 7 block area in Seattle. And you can see on the map here that this blue section is the police department. This green area is the whole zone. You have where the police apparently are occupying over here and some other zones. But essentially, the Black Lives Matter protesters and other protesters in the area claimed this area as an autonomous zone separate from the United States. The police abandoned the area, and they now claim this is a police-free zone where people can peaceably assemble and different things. But we're seeing reports all over that this area is everything from a terrorist group to a peaceful commune. So, what is it? What do the people in there have to say? What does the news media have to say? That's what we're going to look at. So, like I said, this is the map here. You got the police department, you have medical stations. They've been setting up movie nights. There's free food being brought in, as in donated food and stuff. There's also people setting up shops here. And there's different reports coming out. So first, let's go to the Reddit page for this CHAZ area. So at the very top of the Reddit for the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, they have a frequently asked questions page. And this is where a resident and who has been, I guess, deemed worthy to answer all the questions about what's going on in the zone gives you answers to the common questions. So, is CHAZ a fully autonomous, self-sustaining sovereign state? Answer is no. It's simply an area within Capitol Hill, Seattle, where people are protesting for Black Lives Matter. It's not a who, it's just an area that people come to protest. Who organized CHAZ as their leader? No one person or group organized CHAZ specifically. There's no formal leader. The best answer is that CHAZ naturally came about after the Seattle Police Department left the area. Who's Raz Simone? Local Seattle musician and community member who's an advocate. He regularly live streams. People are claiming in other parts that he is like this leader of this group and different things like that and doing terrible things. Why are there barriers in the streets? To protect the protesters from vehicles driving through them. Can anyone come to CHAZ? Yes. Are businesses open? Are they safe? Yes and yes. Businesses are open and they're, helping the protesters. Are there security checkpoints, armed guards? Will I get ID'd when coming in? No and no. Why is it called autonomous? The best answer is that Twitter named it. The backstory is the Seattle Police Department left the area. After that, a few people called it a free zone, which turned into Capitol Hill. Okay. There's tons of signs and signage on all the borders and people inside saying that it is an autonomous zone. You are now leaving the United States. So maybe you as a resident don't agree with that, but there's at least a large amount of people in the zone who do agree with that and are calling it that. Not just people on Twitter and not just a few people who randomly decided to call it that. There's the signage going in there. If you disagree with that, you can talk about taking it down. Do people in CHAZ have guns? Things are peaceful, but open carry is still legal. Are you fighting for autonomy? No one is fighting for the autonomy of CHAZ. No one is trying to make CHAZ its own country or whatever. We do care deeply about BLM movement and are fighting for the cause. You say no one is fighting for autonomy. No one is trying to make it its own country. You literally have signs saying that, and there's a list of demands being posted up everywhere that say that is the intention and that is the goal. And we'll get to this in a minute. People have different opinions in this zone and different ideas of what this zone means. But it's just funny that on this Reddit page, this came out, after Trump declared it a terrorist or war zone or whatever he called it that needs to be taken back. All this stuff comes out about how peaceful and no, we're not separating. All this stuff comes out. How do you get food, water, and supplies? It's donated. People bring it in. There's businesses, yada, yada. How can you see what's happening? Okay, they tell you about the stream. So like I said, this comes out and it's like, calming all your fears. No need to worry. We're all peaceful. It's like, we're just happy living along together. We all get along. There's no police. Look, it's perfectly happy little commune thing. This comes out after Trump, criticizes it. So let's look at some of the other things that have come out of the area. There's been lists of demands made and posted up in all kinds of different places. Here's one in particular. So this is a list of demands that a group of people in the autonomous zone got together. They got together in a forum and, shouted their ideas and the demands they want, and someone compiled them and put them into this list. So they have demands with regards to the justice system, economics, and, education, all this different stuff. So, oh yeah, here we go. Justice system, health and human service, economics, and education. So I'll try to get through these as quick as we can here. There are a lot of demands. I think there's like 30. They want to, and I'll summarize here, they want to abolish the police department, 100% of the funding, get rid of it, and get rid of ICE. They don't want the police department at all. In the transitionatory period, so this is while they're phasing out the police, they demand that the use of armed forces be banned entirely. No guns, no batons, no riot shields, no chemical weapons, nothing to stop people from protesting or anything. We demand an end to the school-to-prison pipeline, get kids out of prisons, get cops out of schools, abolish, essentially, youth jails. We demand that not the city government, but the federal government investigate everything that's happened and investigate particular cases related to the Black Lives Matter movement. We demand reparations for victims of police brutality in a form to be determined. So we're going for reparations there for people that have been wronged by police brutality. We demand that the city of Seattle make the names of the officers involved in police brutality public record. We demand a retrial of all people in color currently serving a prison sentence for violent crime. So what they're saying there is anyone who's not white that's committed a violent crime gets a retrial. But just people of color who've committed violent crimes. Anyone who's white doesn't get a retrial for a violent crime they've committed. We demand decriminalization of the acts of protest and amnesty for protesters. Okay, and they demand release of protester here. It's long here. So basically, whether or not you were peaceful or a violent protester, don't prosecute those people, get them out of jail, that sort of thing. They go through a whole list of demands here about releasing different prisoners, from marijuana charges to those resisting arrest to protesters, immunity, removing immunity from police officers, abolition of imprisonment, generally speaking, but especially abolition of youth prisoners. So essentially fighting for release of prisoners and removal of the prison system for the most part. They I guess, are willing to make a few exceptions. We demand in replacement of the current criminal justice system, they have new programs put into place. We demand autonomy be given to the people to create localized anti-crime systems. The SPD, between now and the time of its abolition, empty its lost and found returned property. Justice for, people abused by the system. Demand that officers wear constant body cams until they're abolished. And then we start to transition here on this last demand of justice into the socialism category. We demand that the funding previously used for Seattle police be redirected into socialized healthcare and medicine, free public housing, and they add, because housing is a human right, not a privilege, public education needs to be improved to decrease average class size in cities and schools and teacher salary. Naturalization services for immigrants to the United States living here undocumented. And we demand they be called undocumented because no person is illegal. So yeah, they're fighting for, anyone's able to come into the country, the whole open borders thing. They're advocating for socialized healthcare and medicine. God, awful. I assume they think that's a human right as well. They also think public housing is a human right. All these things they claim are human rights in which you would have to force someone else to pay and create and give you something because you're owed that and it's free for you, but someone else has to pay for it in some fashion, so it's not a human right. We also have economic demands that must be addressed, so they continue on this scale. We demand the de-gentrification of Seattle, starting with rent control. We demand the restoration of city funding for arts and culture to reestablish one rich local cultural identity of Seattle. We demand free college. Oh, more free stuff. I guess free stuff is just coming out of the woodwork here. Everything's going to be freaking free in this city. Somehow we're going to do it. Due to the overwhelming effect that education has on economic success and correlated overwhelming impact of poverty on people of color and form of reparations for the treatment of black people. Okay, so we're going for more reparations here. We demand that between now and the abolition of the SPD, they are prohibited from doing homeless sweeps and getting rid of homeless people. We demand a decentralized election process to give citizens greater ability to control who gets into office. We have demands pertaining to what we would call health and human services. We demand for the hospitals and care facilities of Seattle to employ black doctors and nurses specifically to help care for black patients. So, segregated healthcare and forced employment of people based on color. So, we are moving backwards in that aspect, I guess, but I guess they're looking for segregated hospital type situations, is what it looks like. We demand the people of Seattle seek out and proudly support Black owned businesses. Your money is power and sustainability. We demand the city create a separate system. 4911. Okay, so these right here aren't even demands from the city of Seattle. These are demands from businesses and people. They are telling hospitals that they need to do this. This isn't the state. They're telling the hospitals, and they're telling the people that they need to go to specific businesses. Whether or not you've shopped at one business your whole life because you've been to the store and you like the store, no matter who the owner or the color of the owner's skin is, they're now telling you, no, you need to be going to these stores. We demand it. That's a demand. Okay. Then they address demands regarding education. This is funny. They demand that the history of Black and Native Americans be given significantly greater focus in the Washington State education curriculum. I don't actually think they would like that if the history was given in, like the complete full history was given and everything that happened was included. I don't actually think they would like that, because when sorts of people in these movements and these groups like to talk about history, they only like to talk about the things that shows the other side is bad and their side is good. When you look at history with regards to these subjects and a lot of things, there are plenty of bad people on each side and plenty of good people on each side. And if you cover them in depth, fully and completely, and have a significant, great focus on this, it's not going to entirely fit their narrative. They are not going to like it, and they will not be happy. So when they say a significant focus, I assume they're talking about a focus on the stuff that promotes that certain narrative. And we can get into that later, but if you're really curious about it, find actual sources on the subject and look to different places, and you'll see. They demand that through anti-bias training become a legal requirement. They demand the city of Washington remove any monuments dedicated to historical figures of the Confederacy. Now, I get what they're saying. They don't want these statues up of Confederates representing their towns, whatever. Okay, that's fine. Still historical pieces of, history that probably should be preserved in one form or another. And I've heard a few other conservative voices say, hey, why not, put these in a museum where they can be explained in their context and everything. That'd be a good thing. But here's a problem I have too. You're also tearing down statues that have nothing to do with the Confederacy. For instance, Christopher Columbus, his statues are being wrecked all over the country. And why? They're calling him a genocidal racist who was a terrible person. Now, I'm going to put a link right up here on the info card that you can click that I did a couple days ago on Christopher Columbus and the myths going around about him and why these people are destroying his statues with, all the evidence out there that he is not all of these things. So if you want to hear more about that, click on that link and it'll tell you all about Christopher Columbus. So, although we have liberated Free Capitol Hill in the name of the people of Seattle, we must not forget that we stand on land already once stolen from these Duwamish people, the first people of Seattle. Okay, so that they're talking about who originally owned the land and yada yada. Okay, moving on. So if you notice, a lot of these people in these zones don't agree. You have some that claim it's just peaceful, they're protesting in general. Then you have some that are making straight up demands that the city has to do and things that have to happen and create this police-free zone. And essentially, while they're not saying in maybe those listed demands that they are autonomous, they're saying that they want the city to turn into what their zone is. So they don't agree. And I have a funny example here of just how it's so hard to get. You claim all these people are going to live together peacefully, but it's so hard as the mob grows bigger and bigger and bigger. You're going to have trouble getting them all to agree. And this made me laugh. So during the Seattle protesters storming the city hall, they're talking about how the chief of police is a black woman and thus forgiven. Then whoever had the mic said, please, anyone who's a male, don't take the mic. Then a black person, we're unclear of their gender, took the mic, and the room booed. And the person said, I'm LGBT, I'm LGBT, not a man. And everyone cheered. And then a woman came on and said, whoa, why did the mostly white audience of the city hall boo a black man at a Black Lives Matter protest? And everyone cheered again. The black person took the mic and said they weren't a man again. And cheering and whatever. Sounds like a joke. It's crazy. There's so much identity politics to keep up with. It's insane. You have all these people in this zone, and it's almost like a freaking cartoon. It's a joke. Like, whoever can say the most, marginalized group and make a claim that they were just oppressed, everybody cheer. And then if they think you're standing up for something against that, you get booed. And it's hard to keep up with. You don't know who you're booing, who you're supporting, and people are all over the place. It's crazy. So we get to places like actual news sites here. And I say actual news, but the popular news sources. So New York Times here, talking about how on the front of the police station, it says this is now property of the Seattle people. And that depending on the protester you talk to, the entire area was now homeland for racial justice. But again, depending on the protester you talk to, they talk about how Trump said in his tweet, he declared this a terrorist area. It's not a game. And they talk about how the demonstrators have also been trying to figure out, with various factions voicing different priorities. A list of 3 demands was posted on one wall, similar to the ones we saw. Then on another fence, list of 5 demands. Online was a list of 30. I think that's the one we saw. While Mr. Floyd's death in Minneapolis drove most of the energy in the streets toward ending police violence and racial injustice, some people here in recent days have pushed for a wider focus. Some of the messages mirror the 2011 Occupy movement and seemed aimed at targeting corporate America for its role in social inequities. The more we encourage and focus the race thing, the greater our attention is not focusing on the fact that this is class warfare, said a 28-year-old protester. Okay. So then the person responds, we should focus on just this one thing first. A Black Lives Matter activist said the other things can follow suit because honestly, black men are dying to this, and these are the things we should be focusing on. So you can already see a division in the people in this autonomous zone, what they believe. You have some people that are there for the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests saying it's a racial issue and then it's systemic racism and racism involved. Now you have the Occupy Wall Street people coming in and saying it's class warfare. It's, we need to deal with this. It's an issue between the classes, and people going back and forth. No, we got to take care of the race first. No, it's a class issue. We got to take care of that first. You have people disagreeing. How peaceful is this area going to stay when those people start coming at each other's throats? Here's another map. This is the green, the current zone that I showed you in the other map. Yellow is the expansion zones. They were talking about, peacefully allocating these zones into the autonomous zone and expanding it. So there are some people who are looking to increase the spread of what's going on here. Yes, Reddit, you and people in the area may say it's peaceful and they're not looking to be autonomous and whatnot. But if you're looking to expand the zone, you obviously plan on going on for a little bit longer, quite a while, even if you're trying to make it bigger and incorporate, more places of resources and foods and different things like that. So we have some other news articles here about, mixed reviews from neighbors and businesses. Some people are saying it's nothing aggressive or violent. We didn't come out for that. We just want to be equal. Some businesses and residents tell the news off camera that they're worried about their own safety. Others aren't as concerned. There's mixed emotions going on right now. Some people are happy, some aren't. But we're talking concern that there were armed people monitoring. It's not legal, and police said you should call 911 if you need help. Then you have Fox here saying that that Seattle police say they have received reports of armed guards and potential extortion in the zones. They've heard anecdotally reports of citizens and businesses being asked to pay a fee to operate within this area. This is a crime of extortion. If anyone has been subject to this, we need them to call 911. So you look at this, and like I said, there's differing opinions all over the place on what's actually going on. And it seems everyone's evidence is different. People saying it's peaceful are showing pictures of like the edge of the autonomous zone of people like just hanging out, sitting there. but then we don't see anything from the middle area and what's going on, at night and different things. And then we have these crazy lists of demands coming out and people saying we need these things, we're expanding the zone, this sort of stuff. Conflicting reports there. You also have people saying there's extortion going on. No, we're extremely peaceful. That's my point is, I don't think we really know what's going on with this and where it's going. Some people are extremely worried about it. Like the president, is talking about taking back the area. And some people are like, no, this is an example of how it's going to be without police. We need to show people and we need to let this zone be. I don't really know what's going to happen with it. Could it turn violent? I mean, we see how some of the protesters and people can get when people don't agree with them. Some do remain peaceful, yes. Do some get violent? Yes. And as we saw from just that little hall meeting that they had, you can have the crowd turn on you in an instant, boo or cheer or whatever fits the narrative at that moment. And you can get the most people to do. They'll mob mentality. They just go along with it. They'll chant, do whatever you want. And this is all just so crazy. I don't know if it should be considered a threat or a joke because we know the demographic of a lot of these people, these young people that haven't, well, I won't generalize here, but maybe a lot of people who, are used to just watching movies and playing video games and stuff like that like to go out there and protest and make their voice heard. This is kind of what that reminds me of. Take a look here. This is from that one game, I believe, The Division is what it's called. But it's like a map of the game where they have different zones and take over different areas and things like that. You have the buildings marked, police station, and this is a green safe zone, this is the red zone. And it made me laugh because that's kind of reminds me of what's going on here. They have like the medic stations marked, and here's the police station, and this is where we're, expanding our zones, and we're gonna move into this area and that area. It's like a game. I don't know if they're just playing along, having fun here, but is it serious? It could be. If the people were to get violent and there's no authority in the area to handle anything. But that's another good reason to have your own protection and be able to protect yourself anyway. So all in all, that's where we're at right now. The zone's still up, still going, and some people are apparently okay with it. Some are not. Some want to expand it. Some want to just peacefully hang out. And I think a lot of people going there are just curious to see what the heck is going on. Tourists are coming in. I saw a lot of posts about, hey, I'm coming to visit the area. Where can I park? What should I see when I'm there? I just want to take pictures. So you've got people all across the spectrum in this autonomous zone. We'll see where it goes. But any reports you see of one thing, you're going to find also reports of stuff on the other end of the spectrum going on. So all this to say that don't necessarily just look at one place when you're trying to find information on this, and we'll try to keep you updated on all the sources here. But that said, that's going to do it all for this segment. There's not much more to report on this for now. So if you liked it, go ahead and leave a like, and make sure to subscribe to and click the notifications, because I'm going to be continuing to follow this and see different reports coming out from the area. And if you want to know more about what happens on this with this zone later on, if anything does happen, I'll put out a video and you'll be notified if you have the subscriptions checked. And lastly, if you just want to share the video and get that out there so people know more information about what's going on, that'd be great. And that's going to do it for this segment. We will see you guys next time. And if you feel like taking a little vacation, go on, check out the autonomous zone. Send me some pics. We'll see how nice it actually is. You guys have a good one.